How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to be taking a look at our first inter-AS option, which is option A. Now, for those of you that have experience with intra-AS L3VPN, this will be the easiest transition mechanism to get into inter-AS VPN. And the reason why I say it's the easiest, and in the blog post, the description is in, or the link is in the description below. The reason why it's so easy, or such a, in my opinion, it's the easiest transition, is because when you're doing it, you're not taking and adding a new technology or a new concept. You're taking what you already have learned from the provider edge to customer edge VRF aware routing technique, and you are simply using that technique to connect to another provider. That's it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what the config looks like and kind of walk you through what's going to happen here, because that's really what we're here for one. And that's what needs to be understood about option A as a whole. So when it comes to option A, the first thing obviously needs to happen is we need to have intra-AS VPN up and running. So I haven't shown you any of that stuff in the last three, in this video or in the next three. So B, C, and A, B, or D. I'm actually going to do this video. I've actually done them in the reverse order. So I did C, B, and then A, and then we'll do D next. Where in option A, we were to take a look at it from the perspective of router 13, for instance. Jump on 13. And do a show BGP IPv4 unicast. We have a bunch of routes here. We see a connection to router 9, a connection to R13. We see a connection to R14. Now, if we do if you don't know which one's which when it comes to inter-AS, anytime you see more than 3 providers. So you'll see 50693 because that's the AS that all the customers connect to. But you'll also see, if you only see 2 ASs, so 50693 and 65009, which happens to be the one where R9 is advertising a route, this is intra-AS. Inter-AS is the route from R14, which is right over here. R14 is way over here. So if I wanted to do a trace route from R13 to R14, which I could do, trace route to 192.0.2.14, sourcing from loopback 0 numerically, and I do the trace, I get there all day long. Now, I don't really want to focus on the trace route yet. I want to walk you through the logic that's being used. So if we look at like a router 1, we'll start on router 1 because it's iOS is a little quicker with the outputs. They're a little cleaner, and then I'll show you what XR looks like. So show BGP VPN-B4 unicast all. Well, we're only going to see routes for one of the 3 VRFs that I have configured. I have 3 VRFs: CSC, VPN-A, and VPN-B. Now I have CSC here because CSC has been in place since I did the carrier supporting carrier video, and it's just there. So that's why you see only CSC routes. Now if I go to router 8, which happens to be the route reflector here, show BGP VPN-B4 unicast all, and hit the enter key, you're going to see multiple. So we're going to see multiple ASs, or I'm sorry, not ASs, multiple VRFs. So if we look here, we're going to have route distinguisher 1:1, route distinguisher 2:2, and we're going to see route distinguisher 3:3. So this is what we see. Now this is a small service provider with multiple PE to CE connections and multiple connections between 2 providers. So we are doing inter-AS VPN with option A. Now, because of what we have here, because the route reflector receives the routes, he's going to see everything. And if we do a show VRF, I have no VRFs configured here. But that doesn't matter because R8 is simply taking whatever the provider edge routers learn and advertise, and it sends it to it. So if we were to take any one of these routes. So let's take R14 here, and actually 26. Not sure why that's showing up. Oh, because I didn't do the next. I should have. Let's take a look at. Well, this one here is going to be a little convoluted, but if we do this, what you're going to see in here, 26. Yeah, it's reachable. It was received from a route reflector client. So we take, for instance, here we're going to have a couple of extended community values. So we're going to have the route target value, right? And that's going to be the route target of 3:3. And so we have that value. Now, when we look at it, it was advertised to us by router 5, and that's as far as we know. And the reason why is because it was advertised to R5 from R6. And R6 learned it from R3, XR3 learned it from R14. Or I'm sorry, in this particular case, it's going from R14, it'll be coming from XR4. So there's a number of devices here that are advertising routes and getting them to where they need to go, right? So because of the fact that we have that set up, then if we go to R5, here is where you actually have to configure the VRFs, unless. Now, in option B, it's a little bit different. You can create the VRFs locally, and then that will fix the problem. But if we do show VRF, I have all 3 VRFs configured on the connections between R5 and R6. Now, if I jump over to R6, the same thing happens here. Now, here's the big difference between B and A, where a lot of people that I've talked to that struggle with this logic of, back-to-back VRF, VPN v4, eBGP peering, and then the multi-hop IPv4 peering with send label, and then you form a VPN v4 route reflector to route reflector peering. The reason why there's so many people that have a hard time with that is because in option A, you're not doing any type of labeling. You are actually terminating the labeling at the ASPR or R5 and R6. You'll have to excuse my squeaky chair. So if we go to R6 and do show VRF, you'll notice that I have multiple interfaces inside of those VRFs, and that can scale. The problem with option A is when you're working with it, you are actually going through and you're forming a routing protocol adjacency, whether it's with BGP or IGP, with the remote router per VRF. So that means that if you have 200 VRFs, you're going to have potentially 200 routing protocol peerings, whether that's all BGP, a combination of IGP plus BGP. Then you have to deal with route redistribution, and that means that there's an adjacency. So you've got multiple hellos being sent out and keep alives on a regular basis. That's where actually option A, B, or D comes into play. I say A, B, or D because option A, B is often coined option D because it is a different option, which allows the best of both worlds with B and A, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming video. So we have this configured. If we didn't have the VRFs here, then we'd have to. You don't have to create the VRF. Okay, so and I'm going to go out here on a limb. I haven't tested this, but this is basically what I'm. You can kind of get away with it. I'm going to take and test this, but the way that option A, without any type of secret sauce baked into it, you are simply creating another VRF on both ends of the connection. So R5 and R6, XR6 and R6. You form a connection between those routers and those VRFs, and then you route traffic between them through BGP in this particular case. So if I was to type in show BGP VPN v4 unicast all summary, I have peerings between R5 and XR6. I have 3 of them. Now, because of the fact that we're looking at the VPN v4 unicast peering, that works out. If I do a show BGP IP or show BGP VRF star for all instances, all address families, summary, and then I type in begin neighbor. I believe is the output. Maybe not. Summary. Show BGP VRF star VPN v4 unicast. Show BGP IPv4 unicast summary. Now there shouldn't be anything there. Let's see. VPN v4 unicast all summary. Well, this is telling me that I was looking for a VRF specific, because all the peerings between R5 and XR6 on R6 are VRF aware. So we're learning a bunch of routes, and that's been proven here. Now, you form your peerings with the remote router inside the VRF, and once you've done that, then the routing exchange can happen. So both ends of both ends of that inner AS connection have to have the VRFs. Now, there are ways to do route target import and route target export. So for doing things like route leaking between VRFs and stuff like that, you can do inter VRF route leaking and stuff like that. I haven't tested it, but my understanding of how VRFs work, you should still be able to get reachability. But I'm going to have to test that out. In the blog post in the description below, I simply create new VRFs and put every sub-interface instead of a VRF, form a BGP peering off of it, and away I go. That's pretty much option A. There's really no secret sauce with option A, and the reason why there's no secret sauce, and going back to what I said at the beginning of the video, it's the easiest transition mechanism for those of you that have never dealt with inter-AS VPN, because you're not doing anything more than what you've already done for intra-AS. The difference is you're peering with another provider as router. That's it. And then as long as the VRFs are configured on the PE routers, you're okay. That's really all there really is to it. So with that being said, that's pretty much it. Let's go back to R2 and do a trace and show the trace route here. So this first portion right here, this is a labeled switch path. You have a non-labeled switch path or an IP path, and then you have another labeled switch path down towards the end customer. Now if we go to R13, we do the same thing, except for our LSP is slightly longer. We have of the first LSP, then we have the IP path, and we have the second LSP. And that's pretty much it. I haven't done anything advanced like QoS or multicast VPN yet. Those are topics that I'm going to work into after we get done with layer 2 VPN. I'm going to start focusing on services after this and stuff like that. But that's pretty much how this boils down. I'm trying to keep the video shorter than trying to give you guys really long explanations. But things like unified MPLS, carrier supporting carrier, they needed more time because of the fact that they're larger concepts. But A, B, and C are pretty easy. We're going to take a look at D in the next video, or within the next couple of videos. And I don't know how many videos that's going to take. Probably just one. But the goal here is once I've taken and done, and once I'm done with A, B, C, and D, I'm going to jump into layer 2 VPN, focus on some of the core competencies, and then I'm going to start doing like hierarchical VPLS, BGP auto discovery, and stuff like that. Some stuff that I kind of glossed over a year ago when I first started studying service provider, because it was just a new topic to me and I was having a hard time wrapping my head around it. And that's one of the things that I was just asked the other day through a direct message from one of my students, and he said, I'm struggling with routing and switching. He's working on his CCIE right now. He's a really strong engineer in the real world, and I've tossed him some pretty complicated designs and said, okay, I need you to figure this out. If you can figure this out, then you're in really good shape. And they're advanced designs. And he's able to figure them out, and he gets them up and running, he gets them working. So he's a strong engineer. The problem that he and a lot of other engineers and myself included ran into this was knowing what to study and how deep to study it. And that's one of those things where it's like, you know what, you really just kind of have to hit it. But it's one of those things where it's knowing what to hit is really important. And I don't recommend any engineer, any exam candidate. And right now I'm an exam candidate. I'm in the shoes of a lot of other people right now. And one of the first things that I struggle with is if I don't get a technology out of the gate, or let's say for instance, because of the fact that I'm studying for a CCIE level exam, it's expected that I have to go deeper than I normally would. And so with that being said, I take the what's the word I'm looking for? I take the approach of I don't let a technology slow me down from forward progress in other areas. If you're struggling with the topic and it's not working or what have you, don't be afraid to modify things. And I'll give you a perfect example. It was probably, I don't know, about a month and a half ago, I was starting to hit multicast VPN again. And I set it up, got a layer 3 VPN up and running, and the Rosen GRE model with the profile 0 MDT and the data MDT, that was working on iOS devices, just not XRV 6.0, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I banged my head against the wall, well, not literally, but close enough. And then I was like, well, I wonder if I was like, it should work. And I'm like, but it's not. It's like, what gives? Well, instead of sitting there beating myself to death, it's easier to say, you know what, it was working on 5.3, so let's bring 5.3 into the mix and see if there's any difference. Is it maybe my configuration's bad? So I built it with 5.3, and if it worked on 5.3, then I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's just a 6.0 data plane problem. So you have to start kind of isolating down what the actual issue is. And one of the things I'll be doing here in the very near future, probably the next couple of months, probably once I get back from Cisco Live in June, I'm probably going to go ahead and spin Viral back up and start spending quite a bit of time in Viral. And the reason why Viral is because that's what the CCIE Service Provider Lab exam is delivered in. So you're in Viral. So to me, it's important to get accustomed to the platform you're going to be labbing in. So I use CSR 1000Vs and GNS3 for route switch. I'm going to use Viral for SP. And then there's a question if I was going to continue with security down the road. And the answer to that question is absolutely. I'm absolutely going to go down the security path. The problem with security right now is I have my main focus on service provider. So once I'm done with SP, security I'll probably take a little bit of a break, only because of the fact that if you go from one right into another one, I've seen people burn out. But security is going to take me a little bit longer, well, a lot longer. But I'm going to quit ranting. But if you find yourself struggling with a topic, don't sit there and hover on it, and don't be afraid to make modifications to see what the actual issue is. Maybe it's not you, maybe it's something else. Maybe your config is right, but the platform doesn't support that. But don't let it slow you down. Be like, you know what, I'll come back to this later. Make a note of where you were and what the issues you were seeing. And then start off with a new topic. Start off with the basics and work your way through that. And you're going to run into stumbling blocks when it comes to studying. We all do. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me drop a line in the comments below. Until next time, guys, take it easy.